Your lips go through all kinds of abuse. Chapped, bitten, split, puckered, duck-shaped for my space. So we combined the two best things in life into a portable plastic cylinder. Smooth lips and almost fully cooked pancakes. Introducing Wet Pancakes Beeswax Lip Balm. With only the best coconut, sweet almond, avocado, and saccharin oils, beeswax, and flavor. With a U. What flavor is it? We're not sure. Might be pancake. You don't know. So pick up a couple of sticks for yourself and your friends. And that creepy guy standing behind you looking over your shoulder. Some assembly required. Not FDIC insured. Does not contain actual pancakes or Norix. Restrictions may apply. Go for the gold. Pizza Pizza. Your mom may or may not be sponsored by the SML podcast. Joe Cam loves you. Peace out.
What's up, everybody? This is the SML podcast. I am your host, Joe. Joining as usual, Cole. How are you doing?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. We're both awake.
Yeah, that says a lot right now.
It does say a lot. Joining us as a special guest right now, we've got Pernell hanging out with us. It's not a PartyCast yet. No Chris, no Tim.
Nope.
But we got someone else hanging out with us to make this a real party from Ichigo Ichie. David Ventura is back on the show. How are you doing?
I'm just fine. Thank you very much. How are you guys doing today?
Well, we're all a shit show. It's
it's a hot mess around here, yeah.
It is a hot mess.
Shit show my ass. If we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. Heat exhaustion ain't got nothing on this. I'm having a great day.
We're doing good. We are doing. How are you, though? How are things going in the world of Ichigo Ichie?
Man, things are busy. That's the way to put it succinctly, I guess. Good, but busy.
Good, but busy.
Yeah.
I am glad to hear that, too, because I know, like, Joe, when he mentioned, he's like, yeah, David Ventura's looking to come back on the show. And I was like, he's not sick of us yet. He was like, apparently not. And then I asked, like, even in advance, if you were working on anything worth bringing up on the show at the time. And he mentioned the game you were doing, which I was really curious about it once he described it to me. So I think you could do a better description than either of us could. So what the heck is this game you're doing? Musical strategy such?
Yeah, we're building a strategy puzzle game, which is built on the foundations of funk music.
Mm.
So in our first title, Hexagroove, we did EDM, and it was a simulator, DJ simulator RTS, and it's very fast paced, and you're making music on the fly, and it's kind of abstract with the graphics and everything. But we just did a 180 this time, so we're keeping the soul of the game in the same place, but we're taking it in a different direction. So we're building a musical puzzle game that takes place in 1995 in suburban Washington, D.C.
Okay.
And it has 4 different threads of time that you have to synchronize. So it's a time puzzle game.
So time puzzle. So when we're saying, like, when you're referring to time, are you referring to in the sense of like time within like the scope of music, or time within the environment? Because I know it's character based.
Both actually. So I got both of those for you. So the game, you have a limited number of turns in which you can play. And the number of turns could be somewhere between, let's say, 6 and 40 bars of music. So 160 beats maximum. And you have to synchronize things in world time during those 160 beats. So during those 160 beats, things will be going on in the environment that you have to synchronize. So I don't know if you guys have watched any of those movies, like where you have to line everything up, like Tenet and stuff like that, where like, okay, this is going here, and this is going here, and I need to be right at the right point to like put this in the right place.
It's like pulling off a heist.
Kind of, yeah, exactly. I'm glad you brought that up. So like the analogy that I use when I'm pitching to people is like, imagine that we're robbing a bank, and I'm in the getaway car, and Pernell is bringing out the money. And
yeah.
If I turn the ignition in the car too early,
dead in the bank.
Yeah, you're one of the guards, Joe.
You didn't make it.
We're not robbers.
Every mission has casualties.
So it's so important when we get all this stuff together, right? So if I idle the car for too long, I'm going to burn off the gas, and maybe we don't have enough gas to get away, and the cops will catch up with us. But if I start the car too late, then maybe we can't peel out right away when you get out the door, then Joe, the guard, will come out and catch us, and then we're screwed either way. So
also,
it's about
I slack behind.
It's
as far
about
as, like,
knowing that point of time when I need to be doing something and you need to be doing something, and that is just going to help it click. And this is kind of a lighthearted game. It's good for people of all ages. It harkens back to like those 90s band movies, like Wayne's World, The Commitments, Bill and Ted, School of Rock, like things like that, where music is the theme, and there's a group of people trying to come together and win something, win the battle of the bands. So you're in this environment of 1995 America, and you're working at Blockbuster Video, or you're at the shopping mall at Aladdin's Castle in the arcade, and
yes, like Aladdin's Castle. Someone else had one of those.
Yeah, so that's the world that this takes place in, and the rules about when you can move and how you move are like underpinned by the rules of music, of jam band music, making your partners in your band look good.
Okay. So, like, in regards to, like, movement, which it might be one of those things where, like, we're getting to the point where it's easier to have acknowledge when you're playing the game proper, but just in case we haven't gotten there yet. So, as an example of that, so I remember seeing an image of the group of friends in, like, a parking lot trying to get into a building, and, like, the one guy was like, they were in different areas of the parking lot, and I think they even had their instruments at the time. And
yes.
So in that regard, as far as movement would go, would it be the case of, like, as the bars are moving, this one character who, let's just say he's playing a guitar, if he does his action due to the amount of notes that are required for his action as he's playing his guitar, that's going to determine how many bars he has to wait before he can do something again, that kind of thing?
When it comes to super moves, definitely. So each of the characters, there's 4 characters in the band, and each of the 4 characters plays a different instrument. You have a guitarist, a drummer, a saxophone player, and a guy that plays a guitar. And they each have a super move, and the super move has a cooldown, so they can't use it all the time. And the cooldown is based on a number of bars, and the duration of the super move is also 4 bars long. So that's like a window of something special that you could do, like opening a door or distracting a guard or something like that. And during that window of time, you'd have to move the other people in your band into the right position for them to, pick up the gold or make it through the closing gate or whatever it is.
Okay. I like the sound of all these things so far, because it sounds like it's a strategy puzzle, but it's a non-violent strategy puzzle. And each level, the actions available to the characters, aside from the super move, most likely will differ based on the actual stage and the goal you're trying to accomplish.
Yeah. And there's
a music game beneath all of that as well.
Exactly. So we try to hide the music game underneath because we don't want to overwhelm it. I think you don't have to know anything about music to play this game. If you like environment-based puzzles, and if you like simple strategy, tactic kind of stealth games, then you can enjoy this with absolutely no knowledge or love of music either. But if you do, then great, you get even more payoff for it.
See, that was my question. I'm sorry to interrupt, but that was my question, because, like, I am not musically inclined to save myself. And I struggled with Hexagroove. But watching the videos for Backbeat and stuff, I was like, I think I could do it. So I was really curious, like, how do you try to fit in the more casual music dumbs?
Yeah. So it's turn based, first of all, so there's no pressure at all to, like, you don't have to be trigger happy, you don't have to react, you don't have to have any rhythm at all. There's nothing rhythm at all about this game. And it's infinitely rewindable. So if you ever get yourself in, like, a failure state where you ran out of a resource or turns or something, you can rewind that character as much as you want, all the way back to the beginning, and then keep working on that together. So you could take your time with it. You could go a little bit, take a break, do it on the bus, do it at home. But the payoff is that each of these characters is in the band and they play their instrument. So when you move forward with the bassist in the game, they take a step forward and you'll hear, like, a bass line, dum dum dum. And then if you turn left or right, you'll get a different kind of bass line that comes after that, dum dum dum, or dum 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 dum, or something like that. And it's piecewise, so it's recording all the move choices you're making, and then those move choices are being queued up. So when you're done with the whole level, all 4 of the characters move together and play back all those choices in unison, and it makes original song.
Exactly.
That should be awesome.
That's awesome.
And I got this odd feeling that this game has potential to draw a larger audience, not just because of the gameplay shift, but also because I feel like when you make a game that throws in the narrative and characters that the player can like relate to or just acknowledge as they play the game, it creates more of a connection with the game. So like that was another part of it that I thought was nice when the trailer was running. I was like, wait a minute, these are all characters have identities, they'll have dialogue in the game, and as things progress, they'll react to it, which will allow me to make comments like, "Hey, I'm a big fan of the bassist. He's the funniest guy in the band," or just something like that. So
yeah, exactly. So we've always wanted to tell games with a strong story component. That's really close to my heart. And I grew up playing games with my father and my little brother, and we played on the PC and like King's Quest, Space Quest, Hero's Quest, and then ones that have like corny jokes and like a narrative, and you're the hero and a group of colorful characters. And when I worked at Ennis, it was the same thing. I loved making Gitaruman because there's such a good story there. It's about the triumph of over evil and believing in yourself, but not taking it too seriously, and then like having a bit of slapstick humor and bringing it down a notch, and all these kind of like comical kind of bosses that you can't take too seriously. I think that kind of vibe is something that I've always wanted to put into a game. So I'm writing the story with my brother this time, and we're trying really hard to bring in both something which is entertaining from a light element, but also has a message and then has characters, like you said, Pernell, that like you really grow attached to. And I want people to say like, "Oh, I'm a Jack," or I'm a Watts, or I'm a Cindy, or whoever it is, whichever character they identify with the most.
Mm-hmm.
It's really cool.
So like, how far along would you say this game is in development right now?
I would say that we're probably about 50, 55, 60%, somewhere in that area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that case, then I'm ready, but we're going to be waiting a little bit to get the ready to let get this ready to blossom.
Exactly. So we're putting together a demo, and then we want to have the demo ready for the fall. There's a couple of things on the indie game roadmap that happen around there that's important for us to hit that we want to have the game showing up in and have a demo that people can play.
Some shows going on?
Yeah, some shows and things like that. Exactly.
Anything you're able to talk about, or is...
Yeah, but we've been accepted, but if I don't have the build ready in time, I could have egg on my face if we don't make it. We're shooting to have it ready for Tokyo Game Show, and we're going to be in Tokyo Game Show, and we're going to also the Steam Autumn Festival, I think, is in October this year. So that's very important for us to be able to be a part of that, and that's something we want to show up in. Right now, we have the vertical slice, and we're finishing adding in the effects and all of this jazz where it gets really spicy. The core gameplay we've actually been working on for over a year, and we started out building the game in a web browser using emoji. So it was a top-down view, and you just had emojis moving on a grid, and then those emoji are like a guitar emoji and a drums emoji and things like that. And we refined the gameplay mechanics and how we teach people stuff there before we took it into 3D World, which is what we're doing right now, putting it in Unity.
Damn, that's cool.
No, I am curious though. I got a feeling the answer is going to be fortunately no. But did the change in everything due to like when COVID was running its course? Did that negatively or even positively impact your development at all?
I guess I could say it's kind of both. So last year, with COVID, it made it really hard to have face-to-face events. And as an indie developer, you really have to have those events to like catch the ear of press, and to get publishers listening to you and stuff like that, because emails are so easy to ignore.
No.
Oh, yeah.
So that was hard for us to get traction moving things forward, and also to promote Hexagroove on the tail end of its cycle. So what we did is last year we kind of focused on just building more Hexagroove stuff. We took it to Xbox, and then we took it to Steam, and we made some expansions and stuff like that. And then we worked on this game kind of on the back burner. But I guess it kind of felt like there was a malaise a little bit. It's like there wasn't the same kind of pressure to move things so quickly as we did with Hexagroove, because Hexagroove was built entire thing start to finish in like 16 months. But with this,
which is ridiculous when you think about it.
It is ridiculous. It's amazing that we didn't all go crazy or something like that. But with this game, it's kind of like we just kept kind of poking at it a little bit while doing stuff at the Hexagroove at the same time. And this year, it's really taken off. I mean, since January, we've been hitting it like full throttle.
Okay.
I'm curious to know about the music in the game. Who did you get to work on the music? Is it something that you're doing in-house, or did you outsource the music? And how does it work when you have a game that can have so many different paths that the music can make a cohesive song? And how do the musicians make a song that works that way? I'm just so confused on how the process works that you get something that sounds good no matter what.
Yeah, that's a great question. So with Hexagroove, we built EDM lent itself very well to being built out of loops, because you can have like a drum loop that goes on, and a synth loop and stuff like that has like slow changes, and there's no vocals in Hexagroove too, so it makes it a lot easier. But with funk, it's a bit more challenging, because I don't think you can build a music that feels like it's made by a live band out of loops. It's not quite as methodical. There's more improvisation. You have interplay going on between the different members of the band and things like that. So the challenge is higher. At the core, the way that we're building it is the same, where there's different variations for each of the clips that happen. So the bassist there's a general progression through the entire song that all of the instruments will follow. But then each of the instruments has different variations. So when you're choosing that turning left or turning right or holding still or something like that, we throw in different kind of licks and improvisations over whatever the chord is that's going on at that point in the improvisation. So that gives it a lot of cohesion, and that the progression will not change over the course of the level. But the variations in terms of the solos and improvs that each of the players is doing. And when you trigger a solo, actually is entirely up to the player. So that these solos are the times where things really shine. So when I think the level that Pernell was talking about earlier with the parking lot, there's like a parking payment system where this guy's going to drop a coin into it to raise the boom so he can get his car out. And the other band members want to get to his car before he leaves. So they have a time pressure there. But when he's putting the coin into the payment meter, he's interacting with the object. And when you interact with objects in Backbeat, it plays a solo. So then there's a 4-bar stretch where you're guaranteed to have just this soloist, in this case a saxophone player, shining. And then we can zoom in the camera in there where we're doing the playback and set off the particles and things like that. But we got a guy who's very, very talented. We were lucky to have a great funk musician here in Stockholm that we knew from a friend of a friend, Pete Frazier. And he has worked as a session saxophonist to some bands that maybe you guys heard of, like the Pogues, Friendly Fires, Field Music, John Newman, stuff like that. And he's very talented.
That's really cool. This is such a cool sounding game. I'm dying to get my hands on this to actually see it in action and try it for myself. I know you said you guys are working on a demo, hopefully for later on in the year. When do you think the public might get their hands on something?
I think the public demo will be out in the fall, and we hope to have that up on Steam initially, and we're thinking about other platforms that we want to bring it to, and what the timing of what makes sense for that. But we will definitely have a PC demo in the fall sometime.
What other platforms do you have in mind? I would imagine something like this would be fun to have on the Switch.
Yeah, that's a good guess. That's a platform that we really had a great experience working on to launch Hexagroove on initially. And I think the nature of the title and the broad appeal hopefully is a way that people of all ages can enjoy it, whether it's a single person or a father and with a son, or a daughter and with a mother, and things like that.
And any chance for Xbox as well, maybe?
maybe.
We have to ask.
Joe, if it worked.
I mean, we have to ask.
We have to ask, is it going to be on Xbox? And have you considered Game Pass?
Yeah. We certainly consider all of the consoles, and we have not committed to any of the consoles yet. At this point, we're just focusing on PC because that's the best platform, I think, for bringing people into the process before you ship a title. to have a presence in the store and to be able to have a place where people can find the game and wishlist the game and then get updates of how the game is coming along. With this, we're doing something different. We're doing a dev blog on our Steam page. So we have at least monthly dev blog updates where I write down like the highlights of what we've produced and show off some screenshots of new content and things like that.
You need to integrate your website into what you're doing a whole lot more, because this website for Backbeat is incredible.
Oh, you're talking about the 1995 website?
Yes.
Internet Explorer 3 website, yeah.
Oh, it looks so good.
Did you see we added music to it recently? I updated it, I think, a week or so ago, and you can like plays the final countdown, like a MIDI version of the final countdown.
Should I click the play button now?
Yes. Do you have a way to like have that so the fans at home can hear all the glorious OPL goodness of that?
It'll be playing. They'll be able to hear it now.
All right.
I actually have a question. Speaking about music and the web, did you guys take DMCA into consideration? Like, will Twitch streamers be able to play the game, or will there be issues with like copyright?
Right. Well, with our games, what we want to do, these games where you can produce music from playing it, of course, I don't want to put any restrictions on that whatsoever. Mm-hmm. So I would love to make it possible. So I want anyone, of course, to stream the game, whether they're YouTube or Twitch or whatever. And I would love to make it. I don't know the details of what I have to do to make that happen, so it will not get taken down. But I would love to set that up. And actually, inside of our game, we are going to have a feature where once you've finished, you can share the playback of your level that you've done. So it's all about the setup. So you make all the moves, you get to the end zone, you've got all the players there. And then you hit the replay button and it plays back that song. And when it's doing that song, we're going to have it do like kind of like a AI music video thing where it's going to move the camera around between different players as they're walking, the characters as they're walking through the level, focusing on the solo. And there's going to be some like cuts and wipes and things like that. And some kind of cheesy music video type vibe going on. And then that 30-second long thing, we're going to immediately give you an access. Like we want to be able to make it so you can upload it to YouTube or Instagram or something like that. So
that is so
nuts.
Friggin' cool. Like I love everything I'm hearing about this game.
Yeah, it really sounds fantastic. I was just like the whole time we were talking about the music and everything, the like planning out the sounds and stuff, and I was just like, DMCA is going to be an issue, and I was so worried.
But if it's original music, I mean, what is there to...
Yeah, but how long is it going to take for somebody to make something that's not an original song?
Well, all of the instruments inside of the game are recorded by us, and we own the rights to that. And these are all original compositions. So I don't think... So
maybe it would be able, like, if somebody made a song that exists within the game.
I suppose it's possible.
Then it would technically be like a cover.
Yeah, but
I would call it a coincidence at that point, though. It's just notes being put together. I mean, if you take like an AI robot and tell it to write songs and start now, I guess sooner or later it's going to write the final countdown by Europe. But, how long does that take?
That MIDI version was incredible, by the way.
I mean, I've seen some things get past DMCA on Twitch just by being like a friend of mine has let it go as an alert, but once DMCA was an issue, they paid somebody to make the song Let It Go with a bassoon.
Right.
And so now when you trigger the alert, it's Let It Go, but it's played by a bassoon.
Yeah.
So it gets past DMCA. So then, but like, I was just thinking, like, if there's enough freedom to make songs, would it count as a cover, or would...
Yeah, I really don't think that would happen.
I'm a worrier.
Because these are pre-made blocks for original compositions.
So it's
harder
to do.
I think it'd be pretty hard for it to end up sounding like anything else.
The internet has now been challenged.
Exactly.
Just you wait and see.
Yeah.
Everybody buy this game and go ahead. Prove me wrong. Get a DMCA takedown.
And Death Clock in Backbeat. Thunder Horse. How did they do that? Oh, my Lord. But yeah, the website's amazing, and the game belongs on the Switch, which we could talk a little bit about. On the last episode, we we hilariously enough forgot about to bring up the news about the Switch OLED remodel until like we were halfway through reviews and we were like, oh yeah, remember that? I want to get more opinions on this with Pernell here and David here. What do you guys think about the Switch OLED?
Well, I feel like the first thing you have to factor in is that everyone was expecting news about the so-called Switch Pro, right?
Yeah.
So when you take that into account, it is an extremely disappointing announcement and one that I was not happy to receive, to be blunt. However, then you have to factor in the fact that the Switch Pro and everything about the Switch Pro was purely driven by consumer hype. There was never any mention of it officially in regards to like, this thing is coming, and when it's here, you're going to want it. So once I erased that and looked at this just being a flat out, here's a console announcement, here's an update to the Switch, quote unquote, my realization was just that it's fine. If you really want to be specific, this is pretty much the exact same route the Vita went when it went Vita 2.0 on its front, including the OLED screen and putting onboard, like increasing the onboard memory. So essentially,
now, didn't they change though? They started with an OLED and then they went away.
Well, I mean, same thing. Like essentially, like they changed the actual display. Like they updated their display to however they wanted it to go. Like I think Vita did have the OLED initially, and then they removed it because the claim was that it drained more battery or something. And then they gave onboard memory to the Vita, which was needed. And I kind of wish I had that model now. But in that regard, it was like the new Vita. Though admittedly, I don't recall them talking it up a great deal. It was just, this is what they did when they released the Vita, and people were like, whoa, this is different. But in that regard, if I look at the Switch and this new model now, my ultimate take is that I'm not replacing my Switch with it. But if I had to do a replacement, like I don't know, something happened to it, or someone in my household wanted a second one, I'd buy this OLED model flat out. But it's not enough to go bonkers over either negatively or positively.
David, what do you think? What are your thoughts on it?
I think that if you think about it from a product perspective, it's an incremental improvement of the base model. So they've reduced the cost to produce that hardware to the point where they can add the extra memory. And they know that a nicer screen, they've probably optimized the battery usage a bit more. So the battery, even though it's a nicer screen, it's not going to be a big drop in battery performance. With the 3DSs and DSs and stuff, the same kind of thing happened, right? Like it was always the same CPU, but the screen got a little bit bigger and the outside shell got a little bit bigger. But the hinge or whatever got a bit more sturdy. It's the same thing here, right?
None of them were sturdy hinges.
Yeah,
well, but he is right about being more sturdy because I can tell you right now, my DS Lite, I had 2 of those buggers crack, but none of my 3DSs did. They definitely got better with that over time.
They still get floppy though.
I
don't know if you guys have ever. Yeah, well, like you remember the original DS, like how that just felt like it was a prototype or something. Like the plastic was so cheap, and like the way the lid flipped up and everything. You're like, you felt like you were holding like something you would get out of like one of those UFO catchers, Like
this is the final design, huh? This is what they settled on. And then the DS
Lite was fantastic. It was a big move forward, but it didn't get any faster. The screen got a little bit brighter, so that's something Nintendo does all the time. And I think right now with it's still selling fantastic. They're making tons of money on it. They don't need to rush more high performance model at this point in time because the demand is still there. So what they do is they just give you a little bit nicer screen, give you more internal memory because people have more games now. It's a natural progression forward. And if it didn't cost them more money to do, then they probably would get rid of the regular Switch completely and just replace it, But because that OLED screen costs them more money, they're going to charge $50 more for it and keep the other one around until the stock runs out and it loses its relevance.
And then you got to wonder the extra memory. They went from 32 gig internal memory to 64 gig. Is that even still anywhere near enough these days? Like I was hoping it'd be 256.
When phones ship with 128, then no, 64 is not enough.
Yeah, I think, but phones have higher resolution screens than the Switch does. So I think they're gambling that, this is a 720p, it's at 1080p at best, so their textures won't be that large. So they should not be getting that big. But even though like a reasonable the developer would say, no, the game should not be, 16 gigabytes or whatever. But then you have Rocket League, which like will gobble up your entire like onboard memory, or Overcooked, which even though you're not playing the DLC because you haven't bought any of it, a DLC is inside of the actual thing that you've downloaded. So that's getting bigger, and that's like 7 gigabytes now, even for the base game. So
Pernell, you have a lot of Switch games. What are some of the biggest on your system?
I could tell you in like a nanosecond here, actually, but I feel like the biggest game I have on my Switch may wind up hitting at around like 15 gig or so, because admittedly, I try to get carts as often as possible, not just because of the whole, physical only bit, though I've gotten shaky with that over recent months, but also because of the fact that, like we're talking about right now, if I get a game that runs like 30 gigs or something that exists on a cart as a possibility, I feel like I'm wasting precious system space by getting it solely downloadable if I can get it physical instead.
No.
So
what's your 15 gig game, Pernell? Is it the Switcher? Are you a Switcher?
Oh, no, it looks like my biggest game is actually, personally, is 14.7, and it's Ease 8.
Okay.
Lacrimosa of Dana. I got 3 games that fall under the 14
Smash and Zelda are both up there.
Yeah.
I'd wager, but that's also partly why I got that on a cart. But it does leave me wondering now just how much space my DLC for Smash Brothers is taking up. Yeah. I have never checked for that. Because I do get all the DLC for, at least, no, correction, rephrase that. I get all the characters. I ain't worrying about those Mii costumes or whatever, the hell with that. But I do buy all the characters. So.
You mean you didn't buy the Dante costume?
Not even if you paid me.
What about the Master Chief costume?
Oh, especially if you did, you'd have to pay me twice. But it's like, because like I always look at those costumes. This is where they're just like, the character you want didn't quite make it into the game, but they're technically kind of here because you could dress up this generic guy to sort of look like him. Like, no.
Hey, they got Shantae in there. I'm happy with that. Shantae.
But the thing is, like, people were like, "Yeah, I had a friend who asked me, I was like, Shantae's in the game." I'm like, can you turn into an elephant? Can you turn into a monkey? Can you throw magic? You can't do any Shantae things at all. It's like,
can you whip your hair back and forth?
You can't even whip your hair back and forth. It's like
no, but you can look like her.
I feel like that would have been one thing that would have been worth doing. And I feel like it wouldn't have been hard for them to do that. At least they're like, hey, here are these costumes. We couldn't get the full character in the game, but we can attribute one move specific to that character to the costume. That would have been awesome to me. Like, because they had the whole thing where it's like it's either a sword master or a gunner or whatever the other third one is. They could be like, okay, Shantae is considered a sword fighter type character, so maybe her B move will be her whipping her hair or something like that. At least give some of the actual character's antics to the actual moveset that the thing's going to be using, not just like, well, it kind of looks like her, so that's cool.
No.
Because admittedly, that would have sold me on some of the costumes, flat out. I'm not even going to lie. You don't have to give a full moveset, but give like just a piece of them, just something. It wouldn't even take much for them to do that.
How do you know? You don't know what the programming is into doing something like that.
I'm gonna take a hard guess that if they can give every character's move to Kirby, they can put one random move in there for a character. Because you might be thinking, well, the balancing is complicated. What about the balancing? Like, well, they're freaking me characters. Like, I can imagine the tournament just being like, they're not allowed anyway, so who cares? So balance to me's isn't that big a deal. Because just as likely as anything, a tournament would just ban them. Hell, they probably already have them banned. Just because having a costume makes it hard to determine which of the 3 types they are. I don't know.
Poor me fighters.
They just want to be
Which
loved.
backbeat character would get into Smash Brothers?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. What do we want? Do we want like a tank or do we want someone sprightly? What are we thinking?
Personally, I feel like they would just be all in the game. Like, what was it? Then again, I'm not sure if that's partly why they removed it. But remember the original Pokemon trainer?
Yeah.
I feel like the backbeat could do something like that. Like, the band members can represent like a whole and they work together.
Yeah, that could be cool.
You throw out a Pokeball and a different band
or they
member
could be one
out.
of the trophies that you win or something. I think the Oendon are like one of the trophies that you can get one of the smashes or something. I believe
so. They're one of the support trophies.
Yeah.
And I honestly thought the support trophies were friggin' awesome. at the concept. It's another case where I know some people are upset. They're like, well, I wish I had the character, but I feel like that's a better case of the character's not in the game, however, than the alternative. Because I always thought it was cool to summon a character as he does like a really crazy animation on the screen and then feel like they're kind of helping out with the battle or something. So I don't know. But I feel like with your game, a Pokemon trainer S character would be friggin' awesome to work with. Just swap between band members.
I still like the idea of band members popping out of a Pokeball.
Yeah, but then you'd have like a 5%. I guess that is true. Get out there, drummer! Yeah, I'm here.
Drum chew. Oh.
I'd choose you, drum chew.
So here's my big question for Ichigo Ichie. When are you guys going to hit up the rights holders for Gitaru Man, license it, and remaster the game?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that Koei. Koei owns the license to that, right? So does Koei make games still?
Make Dynasty Warriors games.
They make the Dynasty Warriors. That's about it right now, right? But they merged, or they bought Tecmo a while ago. But Tecmo also doesn't really do as much as they used to, it seems like.
Honestly, a part of me wonders in that sense, like, Gitaru Man is beloved, and I think Joe can agree that I am definitely a part of the beloved clique. But at this stage in the life of this product, and given that you'd have to fight for rights from a company, couldn't you just put, like, would it make sense to put your talents back in just to create like a Gitaru Man for the current generation? We're just like, hey, we're making a game that for all intents and purposes is freaking Gitaru Man. We're just
spiritual sequel.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've never had an issue with spiritual successors, especially if the successor creator had a hand in the original product. It just makes sense. It's like, why fight for all the licensing when the soul of the game can be transferred by effort?
That's true. Yeah, I think Ennis could do a good job with it. They're not called Ennis anymore, but Keiichi Yano, he was the one that created the original game. He's the designer and the programmer and everything. Back that was super small. The company was super small when they made that on PS2. And I'm sure they would be the best people to do the title. And I would love to work on it. A spiritual successor or the original thing, yeah.
I want to see the game get one more chance before I die. And let's be fair, that could happen any week now. With this ticker, who knows how much time I got.
So put those Mountain Dews down and hold on longer for Gitaru Man, damn it. It's like, what do you love more, Mountain Dew or Gitaru Man? You know the answer to that question.
We all know the answer to that question.
Sip.
I feel like rhythm games, though, have become so incredibly niche, and that like every rhythm game you see is super just like hardcore. There doesn't seem to be like lightcore rhythm games anymore. Like, you have like those ones that you play like Citus and stuff like that, like on iPad, and then, like you've got 8 different lanes of stuff, and you see people playing it, and their fingers are flying all over the place. It's like real like master level Guitar Freaks type stuff. I mean, Guitar Man was hard at times, but it wasn't like that. I don't think you don't see kind of like family friendly.
I don't know, master level.
But there's a major difference between the current state of rhythm games and something like Gitaru Man also. And that is literally the fact that the current state of music games is literally just, here's a music core, slap a song on it, and here's your fun. There's no story, there's no heart, there's no characterizations.
No.
If you were to make a new Gitaru Man or a Gitaru Man successor, I feel like, one, you could technically tweak the gameplay a little bit more if you wanted to, though personally I thought the gameplay was great in the old one, except maybe the analog would get a little more of a twitch because that was hard to work with sometimes if you're trying to be really specific. But you could like either take the core gameplay as it always was and just import it over, or just make some gameplay changes that you feel would be more modern but maintain the spirit of the game. Mm-hmm. And then beyond that, I think you don't have to get insanely difficult, though. Like Joe was already saying, Master Mode was pretty freaking hard in and of itself. I still know people who can't beat that damn thing. It was not easy. But I think you could totally pull it off. Which then, I mean, this might be a bit too deep of a question, all things considered, because now it's like saying, this brainstorm. But if it was a spiritual successor and not Gitaru Man, did you have any ideas for like, this is the kind of game I want it to be? Like who I'd like the main character, who I'd want him to be like, or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't really thought about it from that aspect yet. I guess when I approached the Backbeat, I wanted to create something that was an ensemble work and something that was about how we're stronger together, because I think that's about music. Music is about being strong together. It's not about doing, egotistical solo off on your own. It's about us complementing each other and helping each other out, both musically and in life. So that's why Backbeat is about, it's 4 characters versus a rival band, which has their own 4 characters. And that's kind of like a old school throwdown in that sense. So I haven't really thought about like having like a single kind of like hero, like the way the Guitar Man is, where it's Yuichi going against the world and against the monsters.
Well, that's kind of cool in and of itself, because technically that could be in and of itself the idea for a spiritual successor. Like, hey, what would be something you would change about a Guitar Man follow-up? I'd be
you
like,
are reaching so hard,
because I think it's something to dive into. It's like Guitar Man had a number of supporting characters, and at the end of the game, he and the heroine worked together.
Yeah.
Until, of course, they went into the sky and started battling. But let's just say that they were a team. Like, it was the Guitar Man-esque character, the heroine-esque character, and maybe like the old man picks up a freaking saxophone and just throws down the elder. And you have a trio right there. You can still run with that concept of an ensemble. Like, these are all things you could totally do.
Have you seen Unbeatable on Steam yet, Pernell? Have you looked at that?
I want it. And the music in that game is crack. Yes, like the thing about that one, I'm likely still going to get it. But because I think this is one of those cases where like there are games that play similarly to it. But at the end of the day, it's the characterization, the narrative, and the music that brings the heart that makes me go, even though I've played a game like this, which at the time I'm forgetting, but when I saw the trailers, this is pretty much this game, but now you have the left and the right side to work with, whereas before you only had the right side to work with.
Right.
But I would still buy it because I want all those components that the other game I'm thinking about just don't have, because this is their product. So, but have you messed with Unbeatable? Like, did you play the demo at all, or look at the trailer?
Yeah, I played the demo. So I played like the first 3 levels or so, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get any farther than that because the machine that I had at the time was like so weak, it like ran like in a terrible frame rate.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
And also, and I'm glad you've been okay.
I'm sorry, I'm a Mac guy, so like right off the bat, like if it's not on Mac, then I have to go digging around in my closet for like a Windows machine, and then the ones that come out they're not spring chickens.
But like honestly, I'm bringing up Unbeatable is a good point, along with what you were talking about earlier. How you said a lot of time now music games are just like built to be like mastered by like the psycho players with their high skill ceilings. I think Unbeatable does a decent job of taking that concept, but keeping it simple enough for people who just want to play. But then on that maximum difficulty on the title song that I watch people play, it gets pretty brutal. Like it's only like technically like 2 lanes on the left and the right side, and I think there's like an attack button for each of those lanes, and there's like a freeze button for those 2 lanes. And that's not a lot, but when you have to do it all in succession with rapid hits coming at you and stuff, it can overwhelm a player, which is literally, that's a good way to like work the difficulty up with minimal.
I agree completely. What I want to do is I want to make a game that Cole can enjoy too. So
that would be awesome.
If I can make a game that Cole can have fun with their daughter and not just watch her daughter play it, then like be envious of her daughter, that would be awesome. So we'll see how
that is the goal, isn't it?
How
that
Backbeat goes.
The music dumbs can enjoy as well.
Yeah.
I do wish I could think of a way to like make a game that can help a music dumb. That's a weird term, but I've got to run with it now. That can help the music dumbs just kind of naturally build a rhythm. And the reason why I describe it that way is because, growing up, I had no hand-eye coordination at all. Like the best I really had was, like I could play an NES game. That's cool, right?
What about Rhythm Tengoku? Has Cole tried that?
What is it?
Rhythm Tengoku on the DS. Rhythm Heaven is what it's called in English, I guess, in the West. It was a game.
You should try that because
Nintendo made. Yeah.
Because Rhythm Heaven, that's a good example of a game that you should try in that regard of the concept, because it's a music game, but it's all done with one button. It's literally one button for input. So it's mainly like, say, for example, an example could be like a stage will be a pitcher throwing a ball at the batter, and the batter has to hit the ball. So the music will be like the sound of it'll be on a tempo.
Pernell, did you just compare music to sports ball? Because you absolutely lost me on both fronts. Then.
okay, shoot.
Now you're in the weeds, Pernell.
Yeah.
Now it's all gone.
It's a mini game. It's a mini game where the guy's playing Xbox and he's getting achievements at a rapid pace, and the screen will have a sound that the music will play off where something will happen on the screen. And then the person will hit a button, and then the achievement will pop up on the screen. And you just have to
time the button presses.
I will say that I have played Taiko with the kids, and I can play that.
Taiko drum.
Or Taiko no gestures.
But it's literally just throw your hands and beat, and that I can manage.
But truly,
you need it with the drum.
I do want to get the drum. It's like $40. I think I need to. I thought about getting it for the girls for Christmas. Well, I don't want to say that too loud because I don't want them to hear me.
Well, that's the gist of it. Then, like David mentioned, Rhythm Heaven. That's one button input. Taiko Drum Master. If you're not playing with the drums, is technically two button input.
Yeah.
And no matter how
games, some of the WarioWare games also had like rhythm mini games in them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like Native Wario and stuff like that on the GameCube.
I always felt Rhythm Heaven was kind of a branch, extension off of that game. Like if it was like, hey, we did this, but how about just making a mini game solely based off of this one mini game in WarioWare? But like all music games, essentially, even the modern ones, they follow that same core concept of they'll give you a low level difficulty where it might be like 3 button input, and it can scale up to like 7 button input as you get better at it or something. And then within those button inputs, they give you a difficulty where it'll be like, okay, here's a difficulty where it's literally you just pretty hitting the button every 5 measures or something, and that's enough. And they'll just ramp up. But everybody that comes into all these games has their own, it's called skill ceiling, where they might hit it and they might never exceed it. They might stay there for good. But the goal of the developer is to make it so that all those skill ceilings have fun songs for the person at that skill level to play.
Exactly. Yeah, that's tough.
My ceiling is on the floor.
And the follow-up to that is that the thing that bugs me too is that I think this follows back to how players perceive games too. And I know it's because of poppin' music. I would play poppin' music. I was a big fan of it. And when I got the home controller, I was trying to bring it to friends' houses. Like, hey, you got to try this cool music game. I think you'll love it. And what would happen is they would see the low difficulty songs and they would play to me and like, oh yeah, I can do this. This is okay, right? But then eventually they'll ask me to play. I'm like, I don't want to play. And I know why I don't want to play, because I don't want to have them see how I play and think that now that I'm playing at this difficulty, they can measure up. But of course, they ask me to play. I eventually play a difficulty song that's a bit higher, well, a fair bit higher than what they're doing. And they'll go, God, this is too hard. I'm like, who cares? You're not playing this difficulty. You're playing those and you're having fun. But they feel like if they can't do the higher difficulty stuff that I'm doing or someone in the arcade is doing, they in turn means they can't do anything in the game. I'm like, no, stop
do a lower difficulty. Just still try. Have fun and try. That's why when I watch people on Rock Band streamers, I'll watch streamers who play on medium or hard. And they're like, sorry, I'm not playing on expert. I'm like, I don't care that you don't play on expert. I just want you to have fun and play good music. As long as you're not playing Nickelback, we're good.
But if you're playing Nickelback, go fuck yourself.
If you play Nickelback, I'm leaving the stream. I do it every time.
I know what not to sing next time we're at karaoke together, Joe.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I can
this
even
is
say
how you remind me of what a shitty band Nickelback is.
Like when it comes to like Rock Band, even like drums was like the thing that always kicked my ass. Like because I can play guitar, I can do vocals, but with drums, I'm terrible with the hand to foot coordination. So when you met,
I'm the same. I can't get that independence going on.
Exactly. So if it's like, if you can get the kick pedal that kind of sync up with like a double drum hit or like a single drum hit, my brain can get that rhythm going. But if I got to do a thing where it's like 2 drum hits and then an independent pedal hit and then keeps looping that, I can't do it. Like my brain won't let me do it. So
speaking of independence, though, I think David needs to get going. I know you said you had some company coming. I don't want to keep you too much longer. It's always a pleasure having you on chatting with us. We've got to come back, do it again. Hopefully by then you'll have a playable demo of Backbeat and we could give it some playtime and chat about that. And Pernell can then go on another tangent.
Can
What
I
I
get
find funny is we had a whole topic ready to go, and then we never brought it up.
what was that? Was it about the lip balm? Because if it's about the lip balm, I'm all for it. Just send me some as soon as it gets
We
cold.
had 2 topics lined up that we never got to. The other one was we were going to talk about game like console exclusives and the difference between their importance and use in the past compared to the present.
Oh, that sounds great. I want to do that. Let's talk about that. Let's do that. Talk about it next time.
There it is. See,
There you go. Write it down. Pernell, write it down. Yeah. Sticky pad. I actually have an honest sticky pad here.
I'm about to say, be careful. You know how I am with sticky notes. That thing will only be in one of the 15 rooms. It's like, where's the sticky note? It's everywhere.
Well, David, we will let you get going. Again, thank you so much for coming on, chatting with us. Give us the plugs. Where can we keep up to date with you, what you're doing, backbeat, everything? Give us the info.
That's right. So you can find us, our new title at that lovely 1995 themed website, backbeatgame.com. And from there, we had a link off to our Steam page and all kinds of like flashy 3D GIFs clicking that you can get to our social medias and things like that. We rendered those graphics. There's a program called ULEAD Cool 3D. I don't know if you guys remember that like ran on Windows 95. So we made a Windows 95 virtual machine in the office on a VM and then booted it up and then downloaded that 16-bit 3D software and then rendered all those images using that. So
that is incredible.
Yeah. So go to backbeatgame.com and then all the links to our other stuff is up in the banner there and wish list and follow on Twitter and jazz like that. That would be fantastic.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you for coming on, chatting with us. We're going to listen to a song. We will be back with more PartyCast. Tim and Chris should be here as well. David, do you have any final words to wrap this up?
Stay cool, everyone. Stay cool.
Welcome back, everyone. Thanks for sticking around. Another big thanks to David Ventura of Ichigo Ichie for coming to chat with us again. Cole, she bailed on me, but Pernell, you're still here. How are you doing?
It's almost like it's only been a few minutes.
Oh, yeah, but instead it's been days.
Time travel.
We got a party cast lined up, a couple of games to talk about. Chris Taylor will be here momentarily later on in the show. Could be any moment. Could be any time. But for now, Tim is here. Tim Ekkebus, how are you doing?
Ichigo Ichie is a Japanese 4-character idiom that describes a cultural concept of treasuring the unrepeatable nature of a moment.
Onomatopoeia.
No, that's not what I said, Pernell.
Onomatopoeia.
Bad listening.
Onomatopoeia.
You've learned nothing tonight.
I love that word. Onomatopoeia. Is it really a party cast if we're down 2 people currently? Isn't it more of a soiree cast?
Hey, is it a party if I'm not there?
It's a casual cast.
There we go.
It's an intimate dinner party cast.
Intimate gathering cast.
Somebody couldn't make it, of course, so now it's like 3 of us, and we were kind of like on the fence, like, should we have dinner still? Like, it's just 3 of us there. Well, we already made plans, and I'll feel like a dick if I don't come over.
And I already got the quiche. Can't go without the quiche.
Sure.
Friggin' quiche. I mean, Cole could have been here, but I was like, you don't have much to do. You could take the night off if you want. And she's like, really? I could take a night off?
She's like doing that thing where she's like
take a night off from your non-job.
Yeah.
Dancing on the hill right now on the meadow. I'm free for a day.
And she's not even in chat. She's not even hanging out. She is like totally checked out tonight.
Yeah, I can dig it. I can dig it. You can catch up on all those Marvel shows she's been missing.
Oh, man. Well, how are you two doing? Tim, how was your week?
Man, I don't remember. Like, everything is such a fucking blur. It's like, it was probably pretty much the same as it was before that. It's the week before that. I don't think anything spectacular happened, nor particularly bad. There was, amusingly, in my Facebook memories this past week, there was a SML post from when I was a runner-up in a contest. And Chris was also a winner of that contest. So we got prize packs, which were apparently like filled also with a gas that would later make us do reviews for the show.
Gotcha, suckers.
Yeah, it was like from like 7 or 8 years ago. Something like that.
Yeah, we've been around that long.
Yeah.
That's depressing.
Yeah.
That usually people don't say that. People don't usually say how depressing. We've stuck it out. It's like, everything is like, how depressing. I don't know. Like, I can't.
We have nothing else better to do with our time.
I mean, I have been podcasting since 2008, so
you really have nothing better to do.
I definitely do a lot of the time. That's why you don't hear my podcast. I'm lucky if I get a podcast from Fat Gatsby up like once a month these days.
Consistency is hard, especially if you're the one doing the editing, which I'm assuming you do, right?
Well, it's more of like just getting people together to record, especially once everyone involved has children or has moved out of the state. There's many complicating factors.
Is that the point where you just schedule a time and then all the parents simultaneously give their kids Robitussin?
Just drug the children.
Either way, it's, I guess, what is to say is it was a lot easier when me and the other podcast members all lived under the same roof for the most part. So, it was like, oh, we're going to record a podcast. It's like, okay, well, no one has to go anywhere and we're all here. So let's just do it. And there you go. Maybe like one person would be coming over to record and that would be it. But
yeah, I miss the days when Chris Huber was just in the other room and we could just, hey, you want to do a show? Let's do one right now.
Yeah.
The closest I got here is I can go, my co-host lives down the street, which is why it's somewhat easier, but I still hate to drive sometimes. But it's like,
how far down the street that you have to drive? You made it seem like, oh, he's just a hop, skip, and jump away, and then you have to drive. How far down the street is he?
We're talking like, if you were to lay it out in a straight line, maybe a mile or two, but it's not something I want to walk.
True. Well, you're all about working out. I mean, you could just take that walk every day.
Yeah, but then I'd be walking home at 10 o'clock at night. Oh, no, baby. I had no dice. The bugs, and I'm already tired. I want to go to bed. I was like, nope, got to walk that shit. And it'd be like an hour walk to get back. So it's like, no dice. But it's still close enough that when I'm driving, it's like 5 minutes, literally 5 minutes. So that's what makes it so easy to do. Because, like, we record, believe it or not, we were talking about this not too long ago. But though this isn't a testament to you in a sense, because you're on a similar schedule, admittedly. But, like, we have only missed maybe 5 episodes since 2015, and we record once a week and put out an episode every week.
Nice.
So it's like, it works. And I think in the case of, like, the days, like, as you're clearly experiencing with Skype and, various accessible means of record remotely, I guess scheduling, like Tim mentioned, is still tough, but that's a few hurdles less you got to deal with because it's just getting on a microphone at any time instead of driving physically to a location.
No. All I have to do is say, hey, guys, be ready at 9 o'clock. And
boom,
now we're here.
Key. Yeah, it was harder when it was at 10 o'clock.
That's why we moved it to 9, Tim, to get you on here more frequently.
Yeah.
The funny part was getting on at 10 o'clock was easier for me, but getting out earlier is better. So in the end, it's like, it still works. It's just every once in a while, I'm like, man, we should have pushed this till 10 o'clock instead. But I'm like, I'm glad we're done at 11. So
then again,
out.
Pernell, you would always talk my ear off after we were done recording until Chris was ready anyway. So you were always going along with me. Even when it wasn't a party cast.
It's my special skill. And this Timmy's like, I got the dirty jokes all day, baby. Dirty motherfuckers. But yeah, I mean, overall though, I like doing these things. Like, admittedly, I mean, it's like, you might be like, you're something better to do. It's like, there's quote unquote, there's always something better to do. The question is, do you want to do it?
When it comes to this podcast, there is always something better to do than this podcast.
That goes for a lot of things. People will sit and watch TV shows from beginning to end. There's always something better to do than just to spam a Netflix show for 5 hours. But do you want to do that? Yes. However,
no, not necessarily.
I have to say, it's like, the point is, just because something is quote unquote better doesn't mean it is better for now. Like, I want to relax. I want to watch this show for hours. What is there better to do? Well, I could be making a good meal. I could go for a walk. I could go to the movies. I could go do any number of other things I'd probably legitimately enjoy more once I got started.
I like how going to the movies to watch something different is objectively better for you than just staying at home and watching something.
It kind of is to me. Like, because I mean, it's cheaper to stay home, yes, but there's something about destinations for some reason. It always makes me feel a little bit better when I go about doing them. It's like,
you go out when you're not hanging around the house. I get it.
Yeah, like I like.
I mean, we all spent the past year and a half cooped up, so
exactly.
You kind of want to get out and do stuff now.
And it's funny, as introverted as my ass is, like, I'm struggling to try to do certain stuff. And it's like, but this is hard because, again, I'm like, I don't know how to talk to humans. Fuck that. But I'm trying harder than I would have in the past, and it may well be because of the thoughts that COVID really made apparent in the mind. Like, just like the general thought of, like, people who have, like, families and stuff, like wives and kids. And, like, even though COVID sucked, you kind of have that. At least I got my family. Though I want to acknowledge them first before it gets cut out. I do know that that's his own challenge, being trapped.
Yeah, I'm about to say, I think there's some people with families that are like, man, I wish I was single when this happened. Like,
yeah. Like, there's definitely a challenge in and of itself. But in my case, I had the challenge of having no one around. So,
yeah,
like, I think I mentioned it in the past on the show, like, I would go like an entire week without talking to anybody outside of like recordings over Skype. So, and that's not the same thing by a long shot. It may as well be prison calls. It's like, it's just not the same. But, of course, now that it's all done, it's like, I got to try to do something. I got to break this mold. I got to do something. But I wasn't kicking it out. I wasn't kicking it before COVID. I'm not going to suddenly be a freaking Adonis savant now. So instead, it's just like, fuck, stumble and stumble. So it's new challenges, new hurdles with more pressure because you already know what it's like to be isolated and weird for a long time. So it's like, fuck. But hey, video games made it so much more bearable. My God. Like, the buck didn't stop. There's always something to do. There's always something to focus on, at least. And I'm assuming
that's one of the positives with this show is, like, we get to keep busy.
Oh, yeah. If I didn't have this show and Rhythm and Pixels during COVID, I'd have probably I'd have jumped off of 5 bridges.
At the end of the day, we're creating a body of work, and that's something to be proud of. Is the work something to be proud of? Well, that's up for debate, but it's there. We did something. Something was created.
We're critics. We critique things. That's fun.
Hey, Norg's Lip Balm ad at the beginning of this show was something special created for this show. So
there you go.
Do you got lips? Them fuckers dry.
Oh, no, you guys need to hear that. You really do.
Sure we will.
Do you have lips? Snip, snip. But, yeah, I mean, in the end, though, it's like I honestly like doing reviews. I like talking about game. It may, like, how many's listening? I don't know. But at the same time, I don't care.
Not many. I can answer that. Not many.
It doesn't matter.
But somebody might. So
Somebody might. Like I was having a chat earlier with somebody. I have a friend of mine who just hates game journalism like across the board. And when I mean game journalism, I mean like everybody who reviews games and writes about them, because he believes they all carry some sort of intrinsic bias. And it blows my mind every time it happens. And I'm like, every time someone like that makes a comment, it makes me want to review stuff that much more. It's like, oh yeah, look at all those dollars and cents rolling in from these companies. Oh shit, I can't believe I lied again this week. I can't believe it. None of it makes sense. Like, it's a dumb argument, but it's amazing how many people believe it. And it just makes me that much happier that I'm doing reviews and commentary on stuff, because clearly there's a fine example right there in their lives that just says, you don't see Pernell rolling around like getting like calls from like freaking companies for bullshit, and none of you guys are. So it's like, what the hell? Is there something up about that concept? I don't know. Maybe. But anyway, I'm doing that shit I do.
Yeah, I'm kind of lost on where you were going with that.
Yeah, me too. I completely lost it.
God.
Sorry.
Oh, fuckers. I'm saying we're not paid reviewers and we don't have intrinsic bias because we review games.
Okay.
There.
Speaking of reviews, should we do some?
Oh no, that intrinsic bias might get in the way.
All right, first game to talk about tonight is called Radio Viscera, developed by Fireface Corporation, published by Alliance, released July 13th on Steam for $19.99. Radio Viscera is a fast-paced top-down shooter without bullets. Hurl enemies into brutal traps and blast your way through walls with your air cannon in this bloody arcade action game. Pernell, tell us about your time with Radio Viscera.
Radio Viscera is actually not all that complicated, and yet at the same time, if you want to become really good at it, there's a lot of planning and perfectionism that comes into play. Because the idea behind this game is that you are a worker in a sort of futuristic society that's run by a guy named Bert Casserole, which is a pretty odd and funny name. I like it. Beginning of the game, you and your work crew get pretty much gets crushed by a bunch of fallen debris. But you're the only survivor of the group. And when the boss man realizes that you survived and he decides that you're not deemed able to come back to work, he essentially suggests that you kill yourself, but instead you somehow pick up a gun that blows compressed air and go ham off the entire facility. It's
you know who else is going ham? Cole just went ham in chat. She just subbed for her 26th month, so she is hanging out in chat.
I hope she types "in your face, sucker" right there. Boom.
She probably just showed up now. It's like, oh shit, I forgot about tonight.
But that means she still intended to show up in the first place. So,
I am here, not feeling well, but here. Oh, Cole, well, we hope you get better. I hope you enjoy your night off. But yeah, Radio Viscera.
This game, unfortunately, does not feature Cole because she'd be awesome at it. But so you get this air gun. And for better or worse, the air gun is the only weapon you get the entire game. So no upgrades or anything like that. However, that does not make the game any less enjoyable in this standard, because this air gun essentially, blows air. And that's your entire way of attacking and dealing anything. So as you're running around the map, some areas might be obscured off, some may not be, but ultimately you can use your air cannon to blow down certain walls, you can use your air cannon to blow around debris, you can use your air cannon, most importantly, to blow enemies off in the opposite direction in the direction you are facing. So, let's say you enter the facility and a few guards come up with the intent to kill you. You face them, blow your air gun, and they go flying away. And that doesn't kill them, actually. In fact, it just makes them dizzy and then freak out a little bit. And then they'll come after you again with intent to apply lethal force to your person. But littered throughout this facility, for whatever freaking reason, there are a ridiculous number of killing utensils just ripe for having enemies blown into them and then eviscerated, melted, crushed. Any number of ways you can think of for people to die. You're going to die in that way in this game somehow. So your goal is to blow enemies into these locations so that they die. And And the way the game incentivizes you to do this efficiently and effectively is by, you guessed it, a combo meter. So enemies are rushing you. You're trying to get the lay of the land, dodging attacks. And when you get a layout and you know what you want to do, you start blowing enemies into these locations and get them killed off, which will increase your combo gauge, which will give you more points. Also, when enemies hit you, they take you take damage. 3 hits and you're dead. However, each time you kill an enemy, you get 1 hit point back. So that's another reason why you want to kill guys quickly and efficiently, because 3 hits and you're dead otherwise. Though they do give you a little bit of a lifeline by giving you a period right before you're about to take your final shot, where time slows down and give you enough time to try to figure out, A, who's firing at you, and then B, retaliate before they get you. Doesn't mean you'll survive half the time, because I've died more than a few times in this game. So the game is pretty much doing that over and over again. And early on, it starts out fairly easy because all the enemies just kind of die when they collide with things. But then later on, you start introducing certain enemies that, say, are immune to like certain types of kill damage. So you got to find specific ways to kill them. Like the biggest, earliest example is like a roly-poly guy who's covered in like a metal roly-poly insect-like shell. And if you shoot him with the air, he rolls up. So now he's covered in a metal case. If he goes into like a drill or a compactor, he stops it from killing him and he comes back out. So instead, you got to fire and knock him into boiling acid, which will melt the armor and subsequently him. So you end up having to make yourself, shoot certain guys one way, other guys in specific other directions, and woof. So that all ends up being really fun, but the only downside to that is that certain kill methods aren't 100%, aimable. So I mentioned earlier the pool of acid. When you blow air into a guy and you send them flying, you don't get to really determine how far or how not far the guy goes. So you might be thinking, blow air, he'll go under the vat, boom, it's done. However, you might have blown him too far. He goes over the vat of acid, and now you got to line up another shot to try again. Other times, they might go high instead of straight. They might go over a wall instead of where you thought they were going to go. Now they're in a whole other section of the lab, and you got to figure out how to get them back up to kill them. Not things that ruin the game, but I feel like it does mean that if you end up with a really decent combo or score, you earn that shit. So, congratulations. Last thing really worth mentioning, though, is that there aren't really any major unlocks. However, what this game has is 2 sort of collectibles, which will lead to the 1 unlock you do get. Well, 3 collectibles. One are these like totems that sometimes are hidden on the stages at like a giant pillar with an eyeball on it. If you find it and shoot it, it will display an image of a section on a future stage that may have one of the main 2 collectibles, which is a molecule. Molecules, little molecular balls. Collect 3 of them, you unlock a modifier for the game. And when I say modifier, I'm thinking like GoldenEye, where it was like big hand mode or big head mode, or everybody you shoot, catches fire, that sort of thing. Crazy mods. And then the last collectible in the game is motivational posters. Hidden throughout most of the stages is a motivation, or 3 motivational posters, like, see something, slay something. That's one of my favorite ones. And you basically locate those as a nice, cool piece of art. And if you collect enough of those, you'll unlock costume and accessories to customize your avatar as he's running around killing things. Last thing worth pointing out, the music in this game is fantastic. I've been bopping it for the last 3 days. The guy who composed it, which is Owen something, whose last name is eluding me, give that dude kudos, because Destination, Defenestration, and also See Something, Slay Something are fantastic songs. So you're good at what you do, sir. Keep doing that.
Owen Deary?
Owen Deary, there we go.
He's the developer as well, so I guess this is a one-man show.
Multi-talented. I like it. All in all, I feel like this game is worth the money so long as you come in knowing that you're getting a one-trick pony, but the one trick is done very well.
Hey, I got a question.
42.
So I was like watching the trailer for this game, and it seemed like I don't know if it was just the trailer or is the game itself. Like the camera seemed like a little, like pretty shaky. Like it was kind of like jumping, bumping all over the place. And I don't know whether that was the trailer trying to give the presentation a more like, I don't know, wild effect, or is that the way it's in the game? It was kind of giving me motion sickness. That's why I'm asking, because it was just like,
I am
so
glad you brought
shaky.
I am glad you brought up the camera, because while I will admit that is not how the game plays out, I can say that the one weird thing that I would like, I guess they really can't change it, but we'll see, is that this is a twin stick shooter. So you aim with the right stick and you walk with the left. What that also means is that there's no stick for the camera. So you're not going to be able to just say, hey, I want to draw attention to what's over there. I want to draw attention to what's over there. No, you're walking and the camera's going to do its thing. But with that said, the camera doesn't do like a crazy shake effect or anything like that.
Okay.
It's fairly followable. So that shouldn't be an issue. It's just knowing that also you don't get full control over where the camera's going. The camera's going to do what the camera's going to do.
Yeah. Well, overall, $20 on this one. What do you think of Radio Viscera?
Oh no, I had a great time playing it, despite, like I said, the one trick ponyism. So I would give it a legit buy.
Cool. Sounds good. Any other comments on it?
I want more of the music. I want that music.
But is the soundtrack available anywhere?
It is. I've been listening to it on Bandcamp.
Oh, nice.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's
Cool.
good stuff there. I may go do the unthinkable and buy it.
Gasp. Purchase music. Who would do that?
What a shocker, right?
I mean,
Guess
I
I'm
do
the
it all the
weirdo
time,
that
and
still
on
buys
Bandcamp
my shit on
especially.
iTunes
Yeah, I buy
every week.
tons of stuff on Bandcamp, yeah.
Oh, no, that's just me joking in the sense of that. A lot of
Oh,
people-
sure, yeah.
Sure.
Hilarious joke, Pernell.
Not
is a
supporting
joke.
artists is hilarious.
Oh,
Oh,
stop.
it's so
Supporting
funny.
artists is great. You guys are awful. I'm awful. Welcome to the SML podcast. Anyway.
There we go.
Buy our Lip Balm. All right, next game to talk about is Black Skylands, developed by Hungry Couch Games, published by tinyBuild, released July 9th on Steam Early Access for $19.99. Build your skyship and explore the open world, fight factions of pirates and monsters, claim your territory by foot or by your flying vessel. You're the captain and the sky's the limit in this skypunk open world action adventure. Tim, tell us about your time with Black Skyland.
I am the captain now. Yeah. So this is an early access game, as you said. So this is a preview more than a review. They just put it out in early access. They say it has a good year to go in development. But it's definitely it's pretty robust as it is right now. There is quite a bit that's in place. It is not a like skinny early access release for better or worse. So yeah, it is a overhead bird's eye view game, which is actually a perspective that is not my favorite in the sense that so it's so overhead, like you're looking at the tops of your characters' heads. It's not like it is in, many a 16-bit RPG or Zelda game where they kind of cheat it and it's like kind of tilted. So you see like your whole character's like front as they're running around or their backside,
Yeah.
It's more like straight overhead. And I don't always care for that just because I have a difficult time distinguishing characters and objects from one another, though I would be a liar if I said that the look of the game was bad, because the pixel art and animations and like the detail in the environment are all pretty great. But it's like a lot of times, they have like your quest marker and it's pointing to like some person I need to go talk to. And I'm like, oh, that's a person there, not like a basket full of fruit or whatever, It's just, I personally have a difficult time perceiving characters, especially human characters, from the environment from this perspective.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that perspective either. It's like the top down in Contra 3.
Yeah. Yep. Like that. Yes. It is like that, except it's the whole game. So, it's that is the most personal of preferences. But otherwise, the game looks good. Like the art on the airships and the environments, and all the detail of the environments looks really good. It's just not my favorite perspective. It just ain't. However, this game does have a lot of cool stuff going for it. So, it takes place in a world above the clouds. Seems to be a popular thing when a Skyward Sword trailer is popping up in front of everything I try to watch anywhere right now. But yeah, so you're in world above the clouds, floating islands. There's airships. There's, you know, a whole economy and different islands with different factions and different people living around. There is so this is weird. There's like a bit of a prologue in this game to kind of like set up the story. Apparently that wasn't there. Apparently that's a somewhat recent addition to games. This like little prologue that's like 20 minutes long that they use to kind of set up the story before it jumps ahead like 7 years and things get all like grimdark. Like as the game opens, you're a kid and life's all, you know, pretty nice. Like your cool ass adventurer dad gets home and he has some cool thing to show everybody, except it's some weird swarm monster from this dark cloud at the edge of the sky that he thinks is friendly. And you just look at this thing and you're like, well, this scene isn't going to go down well at all. But then, yeah, some things go down. Then it fast forwards to 7 years in the future. And your mom is in denial and your dad's like friends have betrayed him, and there's you're basically like living under like martial law now as you're trying to deal with just dickhead pirates as well as like the swarm of creatures that you initially found or that your father initially unearthed. So, you know, some things have gone down in the world, and I actually wish kind of that prologue was even a little bit more robust than it is now in setting the stage. And it feels like a lot happens kind of off camera in those 7 years. But either way, so what you do is you walk around, you explore the world, you have an airship that you will... So the way that you don't jump in this game, you have a grappling hook. So when you're going over like little gaps in the islands, you're using a grappling hook to zip over them. Or if you fall off your boat and start to plummet towards the earth, you use your grappling hook to grapple back up onto it. Not that would ever happen to such a experienced sky pirate person as me.
No, not at all.
No, not me. So you'll grapple up back on there. You have your you get guns, which you will control in kind of a twin stick shootery fashion. And you know, you move your character with one stick, you point the right stick in the other to aim. The guns, I don't know, the gunplay didn't feel great. I think the reload time was a little excessive. That's just me. It's okay. It's serviceable. It wasn't like dynamite. It was not the highlight of the game, of my time with the game. So you have your boat, your air boat. As you go around and you explore islands and you complete missions, which may or may not involve killing people, you're going to collect resources that you find along the way. And then you will use those resources to do a lot of crafting shit on the back end. In particular, the game has a system in place for kind of building up your home island with new buildings and facilities that will let you craft other stuff. And that is a system that I, generally really like in any game that I play it in. Like if you give me a home base and then ask me to upgrade it, I will probably happily upgrade the whole thing like out the ass. Yes, please. And especially if those upgrades get me more things to craft to make my character better and let me do more things like that. That is a system that I will always enjoy engaging with. So when you pick things up, your boat can you can only store so much stuff on your boat, but it lets you pretty much freely move things into a warehouse. And the warehouse is like a Resident Evil item box, and that it has all your stuff in it wherever you can access the warehouse. So they'll just like scatter those things around islands. Like they don't really make, they can't make picking stuff, collecting stuff to be a burden because you literally have to pick it up and move it. It's not like you don't have an inventory on your person to hold like a bunch of wood or a bunch of stones or whatever. You have to carry it over to a warehouse and drop it in there. But that's not as tedious as it sounds because of how liberal they are with the warehouses themselves. But yeah, and flying around with your airship, you got to like stock your ammo for airship battles. You have to stock your fuel. You have to stock repair kits. So there's a lot going on in this game, and that it has a robust story. It has some overhead action, twin stick shootery stuff. It has airship management and kind of ship to ship combat. It has a lot of exploration of the sky and going places. It has the whole crafting, building your town aspect to it. So there's quite a bit going on here. And it's pretty solid overall. Kind of judging whether somebody should invest in an early access game is always kind of dicey. I feel like some people, like to get in there and give the developers feedback, and some people don't want anything to do with it. No. And kind of the double-edged sword of this game is that, like, as I'm playing it, I was kind of like, you know what? I don't really want to play more of it right now. I just want to set it down and wait until it's like done and refined and ready to go, because it was just that interesting to me. So, you can get in there and see what the game has to offer now, but if you're more inclined that you're only going to play through a game once, you might want to wait a year until it's like actually out to see the finished product. But it seems pretty cool overall. And yeah, I was kind of some of the early access games I've touched more recently. I don't play a lot of them. But some of the more recent ones I've done have been kind of more like, I don't know, a bit more barren. Seemed like they had a lot more work to do. And this seemed like I was surprised that they still have a year of work to do on the game. Like, this seems like something like, oh, well, we're pretty much done. We're fine tuning. Like, we'll be ready in 6 months is where the game seemed like it was at to me. So I'm interested to see like how much more they're going to put into it in a year. And I think it'll be pretty banger probably by the time it's actually done.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Steam page. It says it's approximately half finished content wise.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And that they are planning to increase the price of the game as it releases out of early access, whenever that may be. As it stands right now, it is $20 to invest now. Is this something worth checking out now? Wish listing? What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, if you're an early access person, then I think it's pretty solid what's in there now. It's not something you're gonna. It's not like an open-ended game. Like, it's more of a linear story thing. So I think that kind of hurts it as like, early access. A lot of the things I see flourish in early access are a bit more open-ended. And this is not that, but it's certainly, I think it's worth that 20. I think it's going to be worth that $20 in the end. I will speculate.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Well, next game to talk about is called Blue Fire, developed by ROBI Studios, published by Graffiti Games. Released July 9th on Xbox One for $19.99. A dark world awaits travel through the perished world of Penumbra to explore unique areas filled with diverse enemies, sharp 3D platforming challenges, quests, collectibles, and more. Pernell, tell us about your time with Blue Fire.
I wasn't expecting what I got out of Blue Fire, honestly.
Okay, so I will say I looked at the trailer for this, and it looked kind of like it was a bit of a spooky, darkish, Zelda-ish game, but with like more active platforming going on.
Yep, that's exactly it, and that's exactly what I was not expecting to get.
Dude, you need to watch trailers.
I generally don't. Like, Joe will say, "Hey, do you want to do this game?" And I might look at a few pictures and go, "Yeah, why not?" Or if I don't have anything on my docket, I might just dump on, like, just give me.
Yeah, I definitely I have that moment sometimes too. I'm just like, whatever, I don't even fucking care. Just give it to me. I'm so bored. Let me review
Pony Adventure. Fuck it, let's do it.
Oh yeah.
I don't know. Pony Adventure. How many ponies?
Pony Adventure, not Pony's Adventure.
Yeah, but so is Pony a person? Jim Pony?
Yes, Jim Pony. It's a mature noir story.
It's the target of the poner.
Poner.
The pony.
Well, for better or for worse, unlike Zelda or Pony Adventure, Blue Fire, from what I could tell, does not feature any ponies.
Son of a bitch.
Which is probably okay, because I have no idea how I would maneuver a pony in this damn game. Because unlike Zelda, this game has like Tim mentioned, it has a great deal of platforming involved in it, and quite a few ways for you to screw said platforming up. The game starts out with the main character kind of in a test tube of some sort. He breaks out of it, and he goes running loose throughout this environment, Penumbra. I genuinely had very little understanding of how the narrative was playing out. You're basically the light and the shadow combined into one vessel, and you're going to heal this tattered land. But what I did pick up on was honestly the genuinely fun aspects of gameplay that this game contains. So your main character wields dual blades. That's his method of attack. When you do strike, the main method of combat is just hitting a combo attack of 1, 2, 3, and he will swing those blades wildly and vividly. The one thing I didn't like about that, but you sort of get used to it, but it'll still get you killed sometimes, is there's no like stationary attack. What I mean by that is if you hit the attack button, even if you're standing completely still, he puts some forward momentum into his swing, which I guess is semi-realistic in the sense that if someone's wielding a blade like that and he's putting that much force into it, he's going to move forward when he swings it. He's not going to stand completely still. But when it comes to certain areas, elements of platforming or dodging attacks, that might bug you until you get really accustomed to dealing with it. But he fights with those two blades. He swings them like a wacky dog, and he also gets like a bit of a fire attack that you can find later in the game. The fire attack itself is weird in that it is a projectile, but typically in games like this, when you fire a fireball, you can see the fireball from beginning to end, as in when it leaves your hand to when it hits the target. But in this game, it's like finger snap, and then it just, if the enemy's there and he's within the distance and it hits him, you'll see it connect. But you don't see the actual progression of the attack, which makes it a little tougher to gauge when you're doing it sometimes. Like, you're not aiming so much, you're just like hoping you're pointing at him at the right time. But there is like a Z targeting type system in this game, which is good. So it is easy to keep track of guys who you're fighting against if you want to move from target to target, and it makes it easier to evaluate that kind of stuff. Moving around this world, even though it's not like, say, how Zelda would be with like a large overworld and a map and all this stuff, what it does have is a series of interconnected environments that do kind of function as one giant world in Penumbra. And as you're running around, you'll come across a variety of characters that will sometimes give you like weird quests and stuff to you basically help me out with this thing and I'll give you an item or something like that case. But also, you're trying to find and rescue some spirits. Those spirits are essentially like, elemental based spirits, and they are hidden or rather locked away in dungeons, which when you find them and get inside, you go traversing rooms and solving dungeon-esque puzzles. You will find dungeon items, which will give you new abilities, and then eventually fight the boss at the end. Though it's kind of funny because I guess it is kind of like Zelda in that sense where the bosses themselves aren't really a challenge. The challenge comes from actually doing everything else, traversing the environments and fighting the normal enemies. But the bosses never really gave me problems, the ones I actually got through. So it's like, whatever. But the platforming itself is very, very satisfying, especially as you get more abilities that makes it easy to run around and do like more acrobatic things, like most notably the wall run and the like wall grab. So you'll be able to like run along walls and then jump off the wall and then air dash to another spot and kind of hop from wall to wall, which is very acrobatic and free-flowing fun. You'll fall a lot, though, because for whatever reason, this world has a lot of pits and falls. It's not just running along routes. It's literally jumping across pits constantly. So you're going to fall and get wrecked a lot. And some of the actual environments themselves are even hard to traverse. Like one of the environments that most notably stood out to me was a room filled with pipes. And they weren't wide pipes. They were narrow pipes. You had to run across them and jump between them and climb ladders and stuff. And quite frankly, I fell there quite a bit. But I was able to pull it off. It's just, again, it was not easy. But it's doable. So you'll make a lot of headway trying to bounce around that kind of stuff. Now, a few things worth noting, aside from just the general stuff I mentioned. So equipment in this game comes in the form of the dual blades I talked about before. As you play the game, you'll come across other blades that have higher attack power, and they look different. So they won't change your combat ability. They'll just make you do more damage, and they look cool. So you'll come across those in treasure chests or as quest rewards. Also, there are tunics that don't give you any real abilities. They just change your appearance and look kind of nice. Sometimes you can buy them from shops. Other times you'll get them in like hidden treasure chests that you can unlock surprisingly by using emotes on special tiles. Don't ask. That's what it is. You'll see it if you play the game. And then lastly, there are these things called spirits. Spirits are passive abilities. You can get them by way of purchasing them, or finding them and like hidden around the map or what have you. And when you equip said spirits, you'll get certain abilities. Like, for example, you might get one that makes the currency as you find it worth double what it is when you pick it up. Or you might find something that allows you to run faster or get another air dash. Very useful abilities. And as you progress, you can find a character that will let you spend, resources and void ore, which I'll tell you about in a second, to purchase more slots so you can equip more spirits. So it is becoming pretty fun to find a multitude of the game spirits and then coming up with a good combination of them for what you want to do in the game. And then probably the best but also worst aspect of this game, the voids. Hidden throughout the maps, there are these cubes that when you find them and enter them, you go into a void. This is how you get this game's version of heart containers. You go to a void and you have to progress from beginning to end in these, I guess, Mario Galaxy-like open airspace platforming sections. And you have to traverse them and also collect a number of the baubles that are hidden without that environment. Also, void ore can be hidden in a chest somewhere around them, which is what you need for the spirit expansion. These sections are friggin' brutal. You're going to fall a lot, and I really mean a lot. One of them took me 2 hours to get through.
Holy
I'm
shit.
not exaggerating. Yes, it's insane. I don't think the game clock keeps track of void time because I kept track of the void time, and I was there for a long-ass time. And it's mainly because, one, the platforming can get really challenging. They want you to be extremely precise with your air dashing and your jumping, like to the letter. And in other cases, depending on the one you're in, it might be some weird visual crap. Like whoever had the idea to have a white background and then a pretty much single space white block that explodes and disappears temporarily when you land on it and make you have to land on that, that guy needs, I don't know what he needs, but he needs something better than what he did to put white on top of white and expect you to precisely land on top of it. That was a terrible design choice. But these sections are rough, but they're also addictive because if I find a void, I don't want to leave until it's done. Like, that's just it. I'm addicted to that. Though I will say that could be risky too. I mean, if the guy's listening, he might have a comment about this, but one of them I was getting my ass handed to me on. And it got to the point where I was like, how am I supposed to freaking do this part? I don't understand. So I went to ye old internet because Blue Fire has existed on some other platforms prior to this one. And someone had to do like a description like how to go through this area I was in. And the guy mentioned using an ability that I didn't have yet. So I was like, does that mean I needed that ability, which might be why I'm having trouble here? Or it's just how he did it. But either way, it gave me the question of, will I find myself in scenarios where I don't have the ability to complete the void if I find it first? So risky business there.
I
but
would imagine that there would be instances like that to encourage backtracking. But unfortunately, I couldn't play this game because of a massive, massive technical issue. And that is the game is kind of borked on the Series X and S.
Really?
I don't know what the problem is. The game has actually been updated. The title screen says some TV and display options may not be compatible with this game in Xbox Series X. I was told it was something to do with 120 hertz setting on the console, except my TV doesn't support 120 hertz, so it's not that. But it would give some crazy graphical, like flashing and dimming, and the game was basically unplayable for me on the Series X.
That is so weird to hear. That it would be, I guess,
no issues on the Xbox One. Clearly, you didn't run into any issues. It's just something with the Series X. Carnage saying from the dev, this is a known issue that's caused by unsupported Xbox console settings. Mentioning the 120 hertz setting, but again, my console doesn't have the 120 hertz checked because my TV doesn't support it. So it's something else other than that.
Well, hopefully it's something that can be easily deciphered with a little digging by either the dev or even like on the internet's a little more, because the game itself, I think, is a great time. Yeah. However, it is also worth noting that the reason why I probably won't be giving this a buy as opposed to a try is because, quite frankly, I cannot stress enough that this is not an easy game, and the platforming is going to make you pull your goddamn hair out. And if you're the type of person, If you have it, which I don't, so I have a lot of
No,
scabs.
none of us do.
Yeah.
So it's basically like saying if you're the type of person who needs to like be able to complete something within like 3 tries or something, don't buy this game because you're not going to do that, and you're going to claim the game is bad when it's not. Game is fun. But if you're the type that's okay with being challenged to get access to things like heart containers, as opposed to just finding 4 pieces and having a smile on your face, this game is pretty freaking solid and fun. And I would give those people a buy. But anybody else, it's strictly based in Try It country.
Sounds good. And again, if you have a Series X, wait.
Not quite the Nightland, but
wait until they patch it. The dev knows about it. They're working on it. Hopefully it'll be updated soon and patched soon because I wanted to dive into this game and try it. I just couldn't play it. It was I couldn't get over the graphical issues.
Oh, so it was mostly graphical issue stuff. Like it wasn't like it just wouldn't straight up play at all.
It like you would move around in the screen, parts of the screen would just dim or change color, like it would turn purple. I don't know. It felt like my graphics card was dying or something.
Okay. It was like Blue Fire got gangrene.
Yeah. Anyway, next game to talk about is called Unavowed, developed and published by Wadjet Games. Released July 7th on the Switch for $14.99. A demon possessed you 1 year ago. Since that day, you unwillingly tore a trail of bloodshed through New York City. Waking up on a stormy rooftop, you meet your saviors, the Unavowed, an ancient society dedicated to stopping evil. Life as you knew it is over, but by joining them, you have a chance to reverse some of the damage you've done, and if you choose wisely, to redeem yourself. Tim, tell us about your time with Unavowed.
Unavowed. So Unavowed is a classic point-and-click style game where you point and you click on things and you have an adventure.
Helpful.
I will say, from the top, this game is reviewed on the Switch, and it is a very, very functional port. They have it so, if you played this game on a computer, you would use the mouse to just, drag a cursor around the screen to click on things, drag things around to make them interact with one another. But that can be cumbersome when you have a non-mouse setup. So they have some good helper things here. So it's like, one, when you go onto a screen, yes, you can just use the left stick to drag a cursor around the screen if you so choose. If you use the directional buttons on the left side of the Switch, you can just move the cursor like just straight around to different points of interest without having to drag the cursor around, which means you can pretty quickly interpret all the information in a room very quickly without. And they also have, if you hold down the Y button, it will just highlight like everything in the room that you can look at or interact with right off the bat. So it makes
like
the game,
when games do that.
Yeah, it makes it very playable. Makes it, you're not wasting a lot of time in this game. And boy, do I hate having my time wasted. And this game doesn't do it, so that's great. And when you have dialogue options, it's the same thing. You could use the cursor to select the one you want, or you can just use directional buttons like a crosspad to just pick your option and say the thing you want. So that's great from just a pure playability standpoint. I had no problem or qualms playing this game on the Switch. The game itself, so you are in New York City. As you said, the game opens with a shadowy scene on a rooftop, which the game kind of uses for you to define your character and their background, because you can be either a cop or a bartender or an actor, and that will dictate some of like your main character's actions and abilities later on in the game with like how they can handle certain situations. And they each, like, once you pick what your occupation was, there's 3 different like opening scenes that could play out to kind of show you like what happened to your character a year ago, because inevitably at the end of each scene, spoiler, you're going to get possessed by a demon. And then a year later, you're getting exorcised, and then you slowly find out what your body was up to when you were not in control of it for a year.
Interesting.
And you're kind of retracing your steps through different. The game takes place in New York City, so you're taking the subway around to like different boroughs and different places that you were, to start kind of unraveling the mystery of what this demon that was in possession of you was trying to do and how it was doing evil things and ruining people's lives and making people fucking murder each other and shit like that. It's a very dark game. Right off the bat, it doesn't wait around. Like I chose the actor background, and it's just like, just almost right off the bat, it's like I'm just taking scissors and stabbing them into a guy's face. And and I'm just like, okay, wow, like here we go. Here we go. But yeah, you'll find other so you get off that rooftop and you go through a room where there's like a ton of dead people that apparently you murdered while you were still under possession of the demon. And then as you leave the building, this is kind of the first encounter that the game has you maneuver through. You'll encounter like another demon or shade of some fashion that was inadvertently summoned while you were being exorcised, and you have to try to figure out what to do with this guy to get him out of your plane of existence, which could involve just killing him. You could have him go and feed on the corpses that are in the building so it can get up enough energy to just like leave your plane peacefully, which is interesting and may or may not have ramifications later on. Kind of the big, I won't say the big thing, but as you're pointing and clicking around, so like you'll find objects in the you're going into an area and you're trying to kind of unravel the mystery of what exactly you fucking did, you asshole, while you were possessed by a demon. So you'll pick up a few items. At no point did I feel like I was overwhelmed with the amount of items or screens that I had in front of me to like interact with. Like I felt like there was a pretty steady flow of where I needed to go and what I needed to do. And you always have you always have two characters with you in kind of your party. There's two you start off the game with. You're all part of this like fucking underground like demon hunting club, for lack of a better term. So each character, you'll get a couple more as you move forward in the story, but each character has like different abilities and will unlock different options for solving puzzles. So you always have two characters with you as you're going around and investigating things, and you can ask them for advice and they'll give you little hints. But you will inevitably need to use either items you find in the environment, or you will need to use the abilities of your companions in order to move forward. Like the first two characters you get, one lady is like a genie. She has a sword and is very strong. The other guy is a fire mage, so he can set things on fire, of course, duh. But he has some other like fire related abilities too. So you will use those to solve puzzles and move forward in uncovering the truth. And then like once you get a few more characters, you will select which characters you want to bring with you, which creates kind of a Maniac Mansion style situation where you have different solutions at your disposal depending on what characters and abilities you have with you at the time. There is some limited amount of going back to previous areas, but I feel like the game does a good job of saying whether or not you can do something in those areas or if you even need to be there. And yeah, from a gameplay standpoint, I think it's very strong and very well designed adventure game stuff. From a production standpoint, I think the graphics look fucking great. The animations look really nice. The just look and art of the characters and the environments, and the creatures you encounter and the horrors you encounter all look very good. And yeah, the writing and dialogue is very good as well. It's got everything that I think you're looking for out of a point and click adventure game, and having the playability options that I mentioned at the top of the review on the Switch, makes it pretty easy to recommend to people.
Also, $15 your official verdict?
Yeah, you should definitely buy it if you have any kind of interest in all in this style of game. It is definitely worth checking out, and worth checking out in the Switch. And you can save any time. Like, I mean, that's just a carryover from the PC. You can just save your game state and whatever. So you don't have to like finish a chapter before you can move on. It doesn't even have like definitive chapter markers. It's just kind of like, oh, I came to a conclusion on the story in this area, and then it's back to base. So there feels like a natural ending point there. But
nice.
Yeah, it's a good game.
Cool, good stuff. All right, well, that is it for you, Tim.
Yeah, hopefully Chris shows up soon.
Yeah, hope so. Who knows if he will?
Yeah,
I might be recording that separately later.
Yeah, this show might be ending sooner than you think.
Yeah. Well, do you have any final words before we let you go?
No, I gotta go nap. I gotta go teepee time.
Okay, go nappy nap.
I go nappy nap. Bye.
Okay, bye. All right, next game to talk about is Baiku, Hundreds of Melodies, developed by Magenta Factory, published by Ratalaika Games, released July 9th on Xbox One, Series X and S, Switch, PS4, and PS5 for $9.99. A melody of life and death surrounding a sickly girl and her friends. Pernell, tell us about your time with Baiku, or Ku.
This is like my first time doing a visual novel, so it's going to be obvious that I can't really say anything. This is weird. But what I can say about it is that, so this is a visual novel where the overall premise is, in an odd way, you start out as a guy who is the neighbor to a girl. This isn't a spoiler. This is pretty much the game. His neighbor's to a girl after coming home from school, and he discovers that she passed away. And then at that point, a mysterious individual shows up at his house to request to pick up a package. This then transitions into that mysterious stranger actually being the main character of the visual novel, telling the story to the other guy of how he knew the deceased girl. So right off the bat, the game kind of sets you in the situation where you know there's going to be a somber ending. The main character, the girl's going to die, which is unfortunate. However, it's interesting in that due to the length of the narrative and how much is going on within the narrative, you know in the back of your mind it's going to end sadly. But leading up to the dramatic elements, it's just kind of nice. It's like a nice slice of life story where the main character is meeting these two girls, and then eventually other individuals in addition to the two girls, including other friends that join their quartet or group or whatever you want to call it, and just their interactions together and how they form their bond that eventually makes the end result so tragic. But it's honestly a pretty good ride. I was expecting to be, I'm not even going to mince words here. I looked at the trailer. I looked at the photos when you sent me the game, and I expected to be bored to tears. In fact, you was like, well, Cole will be backing you on this. And I was like, well, I sure as hell hope Cole can do it because I might be too bored to bother. But it turned out I kind of like it. It's nice.
Yeah, this was going to be Cole's game for the night, but I asked if you could handle it yourself, and you're like, yeah. So Cole got the night off. She deserved it.
Yeah, she did. And I gotta say though, like, I'm kind of glad that happened because it made me look. Well, I only want to say it made me because I would have done this anyway. But it was incentive to be like, hey, look into this game a little bit more. And honestly, again, I like the game. It feels nice to follow. I like the voices that they chose for the main characters. All the girls have wonderful voices. The main guy sounds like a guy. I'm not going to say. But the main girls all sound really nice. In fact, I feel like the only thing that bugs me or weirds me out about the narrative and how things progress is that the main character is like a late high school, early college kid, and the girl is like I guess they kind of paint her as being like 10 or something. She's like a youngish person. And he talks like initially he gives off the impression like, oh, she was like a kid sister to me in a sense. But then like certain lines, I'm like, are you attracted to this kid or are you actually treating her like your kid sister? I can't figure out where you're going with this dude. But when you're not dealing with that nonsense, all the character interactions are really nice and fun and sweet. I've been very much, you come to appreciate the characters as the story progresses and as things start to shift and change and the inevitable, not so normal events that start to occur in the story play out. You're attached to the character, so you're that much more driven to like, what the hell's going on? What is up with this? And over time, eventually, you will be forced to make changes or choices. Simple, like, dialogue choices, which will lead your narrative arc down different, like, potentially, like, slightly different paths or potentially different paths. I typically only play through games once, so the paths I chose were the only ones I will have seen. So I don't know how different the other ones are, But I do
it's a
know
visual
based on the
novel.
show,
You got to replay it and check all the paths and get all the achievements, right?
you know how hard it is for me to replay any game? It just doesn't happen. But I do like when games have different routes regardless in some ways, because on one hand, you might hear a person that says, well, if I don't get all the content, that sucks. On the other hand, I kind of like when different people get different outcomes and you can discuss what choices you made that were different from the others. And then you're like, hey, this is my experience compared to yours. So in that regard, it can be still pretty freaking cool. I feel like in the end, this game does it right. The artwork that you unlock as you play through the game, I hate calling it unlock, is really just is artwork that is displayed during the story and then it becomes available in the gallery as well. But the artwork that comes up in the game is very nice. I like the character art. The music is very well suited for the sections when it begins to play. It's a great game. I like it. And the only thing I would want to caution for folks who do visual novels, because similar to how it was when I came into this, if your experience is typically, the Danganronpas, the Phoenix Wright, basically all the games where it's like very tense half the time and it's like very excitable. I don't want to say this isn't for you, because that's how I typically am, and I came away feeling quite all right with this game. However, if it's not something you're willing to give a chance, then that pretty much nails it right there. But if you are willing to give it a chance, I think it's a nice game. I think it's a good story that plays out here, and I think it is worth the time that you're going to put into it, which will be a number of hours. This is not a short visual novel, but
so
it's a good one.
$10 on this one. What do you think?
I think it's a good story, and I think you will definitely get 10 hours or $10 worth of enjoyment out of it. So I'd give it a buy.
Cool. All right, Chris is here. Hey, Chris, how are you doing?
Crap.
Oh, hi.
He just stealthed it in here. He didn't do a ta-da, I'm here, folks.
He snuck in during the last review. He's here. Yeah,
There goes Chris.
Yeah.
Chris, how are you doing?
What?
How are you doing?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Had a long work day. Now I'm cracking a cold one with the boys.
The cat's like, where's my cold one?
Chug.
Where's my cold one at? I see, now I wish I had a cold one. I'm drinking a freaking hot one over here, with no hooch in it.
I just have a cool Pepsi Blue.
I could actually spike this bad boy now I think about it.
There you
Then
go.
it'll be like I'm drinking with the boys.
Scratching at the door.
He's like, where's mine? He heard you crack the cold one with the boys. He wants in.
He's like, I'm one of the boys.
Meow, meow,
Meow, meow, meow.
Meow.
Adore a boy.
Yeah.
Anyway, Chris, you got a couple games to talk about. Should we get to these?
Oh, sure.
Pernell, you going to hang out? You stick around?
I'll hang out for a bit.
Cool beans. Next game to talk about is BeeFense BeeMastered, developed and published by ByteRockers Games, released May 20th on Xbox One for $7.99, May 31st on the Switch for $9.99. Protect your beehive fortress against the Hornet Menace. After all, the best offense is a good BeeFense. Chris, tell us about BeeFense BeeMastered.
Can you believe these puns?
I can't beat them.
Anyway, that's my review.
I am bewildered.
Oh, okay. Well,
you better believe it.
B.
Can we be done with these?
Oh God, I'm gonna let my cat in.
He's like, put so many B puns up there, I might have to crack my back.
Oh my God!
It wasn't you. It was me. All right. So yes, BeeFense BeeMastered. So I'm not sure where this came out originally, but I guess it is a BeeMastered version of the game. This is a tower defense game, or I guess it's a beehive defense game, as it were. The story is that the bees are trying to live their best life, and then wasps come in and start stealing their honey and ravaging their lands. And so it's basically like kind of starting over and trying to keep them away from stealing your honey and whatnot. The way you do that, the game is on a kind of a hex grid, a little bit like some classic strategy games like Dark Wizard or Langrisser or something like that. But of course, it's more of an RTS, so that's how that goes. But I do appreciate that they went with hexagon because it looks like a honeycomb, you know, like every stage kind of has that look. And so what you do is, of course, you have the hive in the center, in the big middle of things. That's what you're protecting, and you can choose. There's like basically a path, and the wasps are gonna like walk along that path slowly, or fleas, or whatever other enemies. And you have to set yourself up with the BeeFense of weaponry, of course. And that could, you start off with like turret guns, and but you also, so basically, you gather resources in this, like it's that kind of RTS, and the resources are pollen and nectar. So there's flowers nearby, so you create units with a certain amount of pollen, and when the unit is going, you can have that unit farm for either of those two resources to make more bees and more weaponry. Now, here's the thing. In order for the weaponry to work, a bee has to be in the cockpit, as it were. And so you kind of have to like go between allocating your worker bees between gathering resources and manning the weaponry. And the enemies like basically go in waves on a timer, so you can always know like when they're about to show up, and so you can kind of like either be building up your defenses or preparing essentially. And if you are prepared, you can actually force them to come early too, which is kind of nice. And you get bonuses if you can defeat the enemy faster. So you get a bit of a reward for being able to set your stuff up quickly and get things rolling. So that's the pollen is basically as you gather it, that is what allows you to bring in more bee units and also to build the weaponry, and that's like your kind of your bread and butter. However, the nectar is for unlocking like certain unlockables. So like you can upgrade your weapons with a certain amount of pollen, but you can add more weapons to them. For instance, grenades, or I didn't look at all of them. There's like a kind of a rocket launcher type thing too. And but those cost pollen, and by the thousands. So as you're kind of saving up pollen, you kind of or not pollen, nectar, sorry. As you gather up more nectar, you can kind of consider that a bonus towards like being able to really ramp up your game. And yeah, the thing that I kind of like about it, so it's very, because it's an RTS, it's very mousy. So like, you move around a cursor and push the like L2 button, or the what's the one, the trigger button, to highlight your unit, and then you like push the A button on the other thing in order to get them to go over there. So what I like about the Switch version here is that you can also just use the touchscreen, and I almost exclusively use the touchscreen because the touchscreen is much more easy to use. Everything's like right there. Everything's like kind of done up in icons and stuff. It's very touchscreen friendly. I wasn't a big fan. It feels
like this is a game that's worth dropping the extra $2 for to go with on the Switch over like Xbox.
Yeah, and it never gets that deep, so everything's kind of breezy, which is nice. I mean, it is challenging, but if you're like kind of an RTS, like if you've ever won any kind of battle in Warcraft, then you can probably get through this game fairly easily. I mean, original Warcraft, the one that's hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but yeah, like it's nice. All the characters are nice and colorful. Of course, the puns abound. And, Hive had a good time with this one. $8
to $10, depending on the platform. What do you think of this?
I do believe that it's a buy it.
I quit this show.
I came in an hour late for this.
You did. It was worth it. All right, final game to talk about tonight is a 2-pack of visual novels called Beach Bounce and Beauty Bounce, developed by Dharker Studio, published by Gamuzumi. Beach Bounce Remastered released May 6th on the Switch for $9.99. Beauty Bounce released July 8th on the Switch for $4.99. And there is a Bunny Bounce releasing July 22nd later on this month, so hopefully we'll get to finish the trilogy later this month. But we're going to focus the most on Beauty Bounce because that is the new release. Tomo has inherited his grandmother's beach resort, and he must now prove himself a capable owner. To do this, he needs to manage the financial reports to keep the bank happy and also run an exciting and glamorous local beauty pageant. This wasn't the job he was expecting to be doing when he learned about the resort and can be quite trying. It's up to him to keep the park afloat, or otherwise he'll put all the sweet girls who work there out of a job. Help Tomo succeed with business and romance in this new adventure. Chris, tell us about Beauty Bounce. Or should we start with Beach Bounce? Because
we should start with Beach Bounce.
This is a series.
It is a series.
So let's we'll start at the beginning with Beach Bounce.
We'll walk you through the entire ordeal. Just gonna start reading the novel out loud. Beach Bounce is
Chapter one.
So it is a visual novel. It's kind of a harem romance. So where you play Tomo, whose grandmother asks him at the beginning of the game to, she is in the hospital, so she asks him to go and watch her resort, which is called Beach Bounce. That's the name of the resort. And, he gets there, meets the receptionist who is, kind of cold to him. And she's, the one with glasses. She's very serious. There's actually they're her words for I can't remember what the anime word is for the serious one with the glasses. They actually have words for these cliches. And, but then he meets the much nicer, greeter and, kind of, as the story unfolds, he gets to meet more and more of these girls. And, since he's the boss, he basically has to kind of make the rounds every day. And the game kind of, basically the point of the game, of course, is to not get your, ass handed to you by, not doing anything. And in the romance department, it's basically... You kind of spend more time, you get choices like where you want to go, and where you go determines who you're hanging out with. And the more you hang out with somebody and, make good choices, the more likely it is that they will, treat you to some of that good old visual novel content that we all crack this one open for.
Fan service.
A fan service. And we'll get to the fan service in a minute, because I actually do have some points to make about that. So at the end of the game, this is a spoiler, but it's also the premise of the second game, so I have to say it. Grandma dies.
Oh.
And if you've played your cards right, then your boy Tomo has inherited the whole thing, and so now he's just in charge there permanently. And at the end of it, you can ask any one of the girls to go out with you, or go steady. And there's again secret score for each girl, and if it's high enough, then they'll say yes, and then you get an ending, and you collect the ending in the gallery, and you can try and go for every ending. Or you could get completely rejected, and that also will unlock an ending. So, lots of fun to be had. And I like the game because it kind of felt. The game is, flirty, so it's it was kind of cool, that it had kind of different ways to talk to everybody. You kind of had to take their personalities into consideration. It's a visual novel game, so you are trying to game them into getting with you, but it at least felt a little more interesting. You could really have your, favorite. But so that's that. And all of those points are salient because in the second game, just forget all of what I said. Nothing from the first game carries over into the second game. It just starts with him quickly explaining that grandma died, so he got the resort, and mentions nothing about any relationships or whether he's seen any of these girls naked or not. And then it just starts completely over. And then it just completely dismisses two of the characters from the first game. It's almost as if they were actors who had died. Like everything was just like off camera. She had to go finish her school. She had, something come up, and so they're not here. And so they take away 2 and they bring in 2. One of those 2 is the new girl, who I just felt so bad about trying to flirt with her, because I mean, somebody gets a job and like you're their boss and like you're the new person, boss is like hitting on you and stuff, but whatever. And the other one is a flirtatious, I guess she's kind of a loan consultant or something at a bank. Anyway, it turns out they had like special deals with your grandmother, implying heavily that your grandmother was sleeping with somebody at the bank. And
go Granny.
Yeah, Granny was getting it. And of course, Tomo's, shocked to hear this, even though he was dating 5 girls in the last game. Anyway, by the way, and he was their boss, to the man. So anyways, so it's all about like, and she's like, well, now your loan is being reassessed, so you may owe like tons and tons of money and stuff. And he's like, oh, that's a bummer. Oh, by the way, let's have a beauty contest. And so they have a beauty contest at the at Beach Bounce, as well as like him trying to manage his like business / casual relationship with this flirtatious loan consultant, or whoever she is. She is a woman in a suit. That's about as much as the game gives you. So it's an interesting premise. It's very much like just a 30-minute episode of something. Like it's a much shorter game than the first game, and that's why I think the price difference is such. It is like kind of a side story or something like that, or like it's like a Disney sequel where they just like, this one focuses on different characters that tested popular, something like that. It's like it's not the same core story as the first game, but it doesn't require the first game either. So the thing is about it is that the formula for attracting your coworker, not your coworkers, your people that work for you, that you sign their paychecks, like managing like that is much more cut and dry, because it's like, okay, so it's a beauty contest. You can, the serious one with glasses, you can convince her or not convince her to join the beauty pageant. And then you basically just choose, who am I going to help out win the beauty pageant? And then, you have 2 days of this, of where you like, once you make your choice once, that's you're locked into that for the game. And at that point, that's basically you've chosen who you're going to end up with at the end of the game. And, but only if you make like a total of 2 choices correctly. And then, it's really simple to like get the bank manager on your side. Although there are some nice twists if you decide to be a little silly and like choose really bad options and stuff. Like, so there's that too. But yeah, the second game, it's very much like just, did you like the first game? Well, here's a much easier, shorter version of that, plus, 2 more girls. The other thing about it is that this is, very much like a, and then, you want to go through it a lot of times, and every ending gives you a picture that you can collect in the gallery, which I did 100%. So like, and this, novel is very much like a choose your own adventure book, in that you can always turn the page back and make a different choice if you don't like where one is going. If you just feel like you kind of made a bad choice, then you absolutely can just undo it.
That's good.
Like instantly, just push the L1 button and it turns back a page. And of course it does dialogue skip if you've already read it. So but only in the same game. So if you read through the book once and then you started a new game, then you can just skip everything that you've read so far and only see the new content, which of course makes subsequent playthroughs much quicker. So the last thing that I want to talk about with both of these games is the rating. They're both rated MA. The first game for partial nudity, the second game for nudity and sexual situations. I'm here to tell you, on the Switch version, no nudity whatsoever. There is, like, I think there is one butt in the first game.
Oh, well, there's a butt then.
There is a butt, so that's partial nudity. But the second game that advertises like full-on nudity, it does not have it. Apparently, the Steam version has it with a patch.
So it's one of them.
Yeah, it's one of those. It's like it's not straight up smut. It's very much like, it's just a light, flirty adventure kind of thing. And the descriptions of like the various lovemakings is, it's VN. It is not a dirty book at all. But, suggestive pictures and stuff if you like that.
Fan service abound. $10 for Beach Bounce, $5 for Beauty Bounce. Going to be $5 for Bunny Bounce as well, I believe. What are your thoughts on this series?
I would give the first game a try it, because I think the first game is better written, and I think that it's more fun to read through the stories. It's a little more, I don't want to say mature, but let's just say it was more interesting for me. I would give the first game a try it, and if you like the first game, then absolutely you'll like the second game, so go ahead and pick it up too. By itself, the second game I would give a lower tier try it, because it's quicker, but it's much easier. Like, you really don't have to think your decisions through at all, and and it's very short.
All right,
but it's all good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sounds good. That is it. Made it through.
Huzzah.
Yay, Chris.
I feel like I just got here.
Shut up, Chris.
Chris is like, I gotta do this more often. Show up just in time to leave.
No.
Like the old shows, Chris only shows up for 20 minutes and then he's like, peace out, bitches. I'm done.
But now it's so much more fun. Why would he do that?
It is. But yeah, thanks, Chris, for being here. Thanks, Pernell, for being here, both for this and for the interview earlier on in the episode. Thanks to Tim for being here, for doing his reviews. Big thanks, David Ventura of Ichigo Ichie, for coming on. Always love having him on the show. Backbeat. Word is on the street. Fire. No.
Correct. Run. Jump around.
That's all I hear with Backbeat is just my brain immediately goes to Wonderwall. And after all, that's the end of the show. Does anyone have any final words?
Wonderwall. I got nothing. I'm singing Wonderwall. It's your fault. Everything's Wonderwall when you're part of the team.
After all,
you're my Wonderwall. You're my Wonderwall. It's true.
Let's play some better music than this.